Good afternoon.
Hey.
How's everybody? Good, good. I'm Joe Horrigan. I'm Vice President of Communications here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And we're really very pleased this afternoon to be able to present to you this terrific program with one of our Hall of Famers, who I'm about to introduce to you. So please welcome from the Miami Dolphins Hall of Fame Center, Dwight Stephenson.
How's everybody? Good. How you doing? How you doing? Dan. Joe.
All right,
How you doing?
Great, great.
All right.
All right, we're going to do a little bit of a back and forth here this afternoon, and hopefully we're going to not only entertain you, but inform you and educate you a little bit about Dwight and his road to Canton, if you will.
Right.
It's been an interesting road. We've known Dwight sometimes, so we have a little bit of an insight in his background and the things he's accomplished, not only in his career, but in his life. And I think you'll find them very interesting, and we'll try to keep it free-flowing a little bit, and then if afterwards, I guess we'll have some explanation in terms of how to proceed, but we'll be doing some photo ops with each of you today. So
Right.
with that, Dwight, I just want to start by saying, first of all, thank you for being here, obviously. But on your road to Canton, you obviously, had a great pro career, but it started at Alabama.
Right.
Would you mind telling the folks here, tell them a little bit about your experience in Alabama and how Coach Bear Bryant helped shape
Right.
your life?
Okay. Well, first of all, I look like I'm excited to be here, I hope, because I am. I mean, I love coming to Canton, Ohio. It's a great place, and I know I speak for everybody that's a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We feel like this is our second home, so I mean, it's good to be here. And but as far as Alabama and being a formative part of my life, and Coach Bryant and the role that he played in my life, I mean, it was big. Playing for Coach Bryant at the University of Alabama was not easy. And if you ever seen any of his movies, I think that kind of demonstrates what it was like to be there. One guy explains it best. He said he wouldn't trade the experience for $1 million, but he said, what did he say? I wouldn't trade the experience for $1 million. I wouldn't do it again, or whatever. but I did enjoy it. It taught me a lot about life. It's things that happened there at the University of Alabama on the football field. It was no easy way to do it, and Coach Bryant gave us a tough love. I can just give you examples where I thought I was doing pretty good, and I was starting in my sophomore year, and it was spring football. And so I'm thinking I'm going to be the starting center from then on. But I think he wanted to shake me up. He didn't want me to get too comfortable, so he demoted me. He put me on second team. And I think he wanted to see how I was going to respond to that, see what I was going to do. But I knew, I kind of learned, my mother and father, they were very influential and taught me too, as well as football, about life and that sort of thing. So instead of me responding like walking around with my lip poked out and upset about that, I just worked even harder, to get my position back and stuff. And so he moved me back up the next day or whatever stuff. I went out there and worked hard on that football field. And just things like that, Coach Bryant taught me there at the University of Alabama.
You mentioned something, Dwight, and because we've talked, I know the story, but would you share with with the folks here, your parents, unique couple, and you're not from Alabama and you're not from Miami.
Right.
Maybe tell us a little bit about your roots, but
Right.
I just find it so interesting about the life lessons you learned from your parents.
Yeah, my parents, I mean, they were very influential on my life. I have six brothers and sisters. So 6 brothers and sisters. We grew up a large family. We learned how we depended on one another. My father, they grew up on a farm, and so we started out as farmers. And then when I became 5 years of age, my father said, you know what, this sharecropping and stuff like that was not a way that he was going to be able to raise a family and accomplish some of the things that he wanted to see accomplished for us. And that's when he made the decision to move to Hampton, Virginia. And he worked it's a very large shipyard there in Newport News, Virginia, where he worked at. He worked there for 35 years, okay? But he was a janitor at a school. So he would he'd go to work at 7 o'clock, get off at 4 o'clock. Someone be there to pick him up, to rush him home so that he could eat and get to his second job at 5 o'clock, get off at 12 o'clock, and be back to the job at the shipyard the next morning at 7 o'clock. And he did that not for 3 years or 5 years, he did it for 35 years. And my mother, but I tell you what, we all, thank you. But we all learned the importance of working and and going out and making the sacrifices and stuff. So we all had jobs as we were coming up and stuff where we cut grass, and I worked at a store. My sister worked at movie theaters. We did things like that, and we all kind of brought the money home. And my mother, we kind of all put it in the pot. We all, we all learned how to work together and depend on one another. We're still a very, very close family today. So I know my sisters and brothers helped me. And encourage me and stuff. But then I don't want to leave out God. First of all, God first and foremost in my life. My mother and father made sure of that. So God is absolutely an important part of my life and has made things possible for me and my family and everyone. So I put him first. So
I want to add to your story a little bit because, again, I know it and you didn't share it, so I'm going to share it for you. But of the 7 children, 6 went to college while his father's working literally 20-hour days, and mom's also working, which is a tremendous accomplishment. That's very, very proud of you, but very proud of your family and your parents. I mean, it's just an outstanding story. Now, you had the rare opportunity to play for 2 of the most famous coaches on earth, possibly, in Bear Bryant and Don Shula, the winningest coach of all time in the NFL. Tell us a little bit about your life with Don Shula.
You know, Coach Shula, he's an Ohio boy, Ohio guy. And I tell you what, my experience with Coach Shula was, first of all, I was in awe. I mean, I played for Coach Bryant at the University of Alabama. That was something that, I thought I was in football heaven there and stuff. And then I come to Miami, and now I'm playing for Coach Don Shula. And Coach Shula was just from day one, was a very, very, very professional, most intense person that I've probably ever been around. And but it was not like, let's say I come into this room right here and I see Coach Shula and I'm like, okay, that door is the way I'm getting out of here. I'll be trying to figure out the way my exit and that sort of thing. But I enjoy Coach Shula. He made me better as a person. He made the other people around him also better. Just a great guy, but he was real intense. He was a professional. One of the things he stressed, and that was not beating yourself. Making mental errors. Don't do things that defeat you before you and the other guys already trying to beat you. Don't beat yourself. Get to work on time. Overlearn situations. Don't make the sacrifices. Be hard. Be demanding on yourself and stuff. He taught us all those kind of things, and he was like some people say, was he intimidated? Yes, Coach Don Shula was intimidated. And I watched him on the sidelines, and some of the things happened, but the game is over with. And I mean, it's like it never even happened or whatever and stuff. So that football he was focused on that, and he just a great guy to be around and stuff. And now I see him now. I don't run from him. I don't necessarily avoid him the way I did when I played for him.
You'll have a way of tracking you down anyway. Yeah. With both Coach Bryant and Don Shula, I think leadership was a big thing with both of them. And you were the team captain of the Miami Dolphins, were you
Absolutely.
Now, when determining the team captain with the Dolphins, was that a decision made by the coach or your fellow teammates, or
I think, it was kind of official. Coach Shula made it, he was the one that said you selected the team captain, but he kind of got the feel of what everyone else was feeling there. And then the other teammates, they also would have to buy into it. And, on the field and off the field. But I think that, and everybody was, as far as me being the captain, I think I was the leader there with the Miami Dolphins and stuff. I tried to demonstrate as a player, doing the things that I felt I needed to do and helping the other guys do what they needed to do to be the best players they could be, and us trying to accomplish our goals and stuff. And Dan, Dan Marino, just a great guy, and we played with Dan. Mm-hmm. And but when he first came into the National Football League, he was a guy that came in with great talent and all that. But he was also a guy that he was respectful of everybody they played against. He helped make the guys around him better too as well and stuff. So.
Well, I've always said, and we've had this discussion, but that the center may be the smartest guy on the field. And I always say that because the center has to call the defensive adjustments. He's one of 2 players on the team that his hand is on the ball on every single play. So he's intimately involved in every single play. And he has to make sure that the alignments are correct. He communicates with the quarterback. And this to me is maybe the most important person on the field. And I hope you agree with me, but
it does. It does. You do. We touch the ball every single time, and we snap the ball. If that snap is not right, that play is starting off really bad right there. So the snap itself is very, very important. But that becomes automatic after a while. You really don't even think about the snap. So then you move past that, and then, like you said, there's other things you have to get done out there on the field. And one of them is you have to be a leader. Then the next thing, when we come to we set in the huddle. I mean, the huddle. You come back to the huddle, you set the huddle, and everyone sets themselves according, to where they're supposed to be and stuff off of you. You break the huddle, and you run to the ball, run to the line of scrimmage. Now, the way the offenses are, they don't do a whole lot of, they set up only 2 or 3 yards from the ball, so they just turn around and get in their position. But when I played in National Football League, we set up like 10 yards from the football, and we turn around and run to the line of scrimmage. And there was another guy that I used to watch do that, and he played up here at Pittsburgh by the name of Mike Webster. And I'm like, so we go to the Pro Bowl one year, and I'm like, Mike, I said, man, that's good. You run to the line of scrimmage every time. I said, that's good. And I was saying, you emulate players. You take the good things. You don't take everything from a player, but things you think to benefit your game, you try to incorporate it in what you do. So Mike Webster did that, and he did it really good. I said, so every time I broke the huddle, I'm going to the ball. And I said, well, Mike, why did you do it? And I thought that's why he was doing it. He was psychologically, he was trying to psych that guy out there on the other side of football, because he's tired, you're tired, but if you're running to the football, he thinks that he's the only one tired. And so I learned that, and that being down in Miami, believe me, you can get tired in that heat down there. So we'd run to the football, and we get to the line of scrimmage. We might say, man, I look at Roy Foster, who played with me. I said, Roy, man, I ain't never seen this so hot in my life. I'm trying to psych those guys out. Anything to get in their edge.
Well, you played in the AFC East, and
Yeah.
the AFC East, for those of you who don't know, they don't have dome stadiums. You play in cities like Buffalo
Right.
and New England and New York, where weather can be a factor. And did you
Absolutely.
incorporate that into your game with the psyching players?
You did and stuff. And, in August and September and October, I'll tell you, Miami Dolphins, I don't know what the numbers are and stuff, but I guarantee you we won probably like 80% of our games. I mean, that weather, those guys that came from like Buffalo and New York and other places, they were intimidated by that heat at that time of the year and stuff. And so we talk about how hot it was. We wanted them to think about it even more. So.
Well, Dwight knows this. I'm from Buffalo, and we couldn't wait till the Dolphins came up
Yeah.
in December. So,
And the first thing we get our schedule, right? We get our schedule in the summer or whatever that we see, and I'd go to like November and December. I said, where are we playing in November, December? Okay, Buffalo, no Green Bay. I'm like, okay,
we're happy.
Yeah.
There were great rivalries in the AFC East when
absolutely.
you played. And
Yeah.
the game today, do you feel like the rivalries still exist like they did when you were playing?
Not right now. But Miami, we've had our challenges down there, and I know but the ownership and stuff, as well as the coaches and everyone, they're working hard to try to fix our problem, fix it, and try to get us back to where we're supposed to be. I feel as though when I came to National Football League, Miami was always playing to be in the Super Bowl and literally playing was going to be there trying to get in the Super Bowl and then win the championship and stuff. And since then, it's kind of like been a struggle to get in the playoffs. And a lot of you young people don't even remember, but Miami Dolphins we were one of the, we were a team that year in and year out, we were in the playoffs and we were trying to get to the Super Bowl. And we want to get back there. And so the ownership is working hard at it. The coaches are working hard at it, and they're trying to get the right players in there and stuff. So even the players are working at it. So I would say we're working at it. We're working at it.
Well, you were earlier today. Dwight was nice enough. We had a young camp, youth camp here today. And
Right.
a little kid, and gosh, he couldn't have been more 6 or 7. He says to Dwight, he says, "How do you get a Super Bowl ring?"
I was telling him, I played during my time in the NFL. We played in 2 Super Bowls. The first one was against the Washington Redskins, and you might remember John Riggins. He was Diesel, they call him. And that second half, we didn't get much done, and he got going. And before we knew it, we done lost that game, and that was disappointing. Then we went back. We skipped the next year. We came back again. We played San Francisco 49ers. We ran against a really good football team. I felt as though we were good. But that day, they played the game, and they had a guy, Joe Montana, and they had Roger Craig. I felt at that time he was like the best football player I personally felt was in the National Football League at the time. He did it all. He could run, catch, block. He could do it all and stuff. But, and we lost that game there and stuff. But we, and then after that, we kind of, guys started getting hurt and retiring. And shortly after that, I retired like 3 years later. So, just before I knew it, I was out the league. You get there, it's so hard to get there. It's really so hard to get there. And then when you get there and you don't win or you blow it, it's a great opportunity that's blown. And and you work hard to try to get back there, and that's, you got to be fortunate too, but you got to work hard to get there and be fortunate too.
When you talk about being fortunate and working hard, I mean, everybody in the National Football League, if they've gotten that far, they've obviously worked hard to get there. You mentioned Roger Craig.
Right.
Who were some of the others, particularly on defense, that you had to face that you say, maybe not even in the Hall of Fame yet, that might deserve a look? Would you?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the first guys I would say, it was a guy, he wore number 73 in New York, and that's Joe Klecko. That guy was one terrific football player. I'm telling you now, he did things that would, we used to be watching film in there, right? We had a defensive lineman by the name of Bob Kuchenberg, and the coach had the film was going pretty fast, right? and he looked at coach like it was just too much. He said, "Coach, slow it down. It's just scaring." Because Klecko was just, he was devastating. He was a great defensive lineman, great guy, and I think he's one of the guys that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Roger Craig, I do think, also should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just a terrific guy doing some still good things out here in the community. But some guys that, this group that's in here, it's not easy. It's not easy to get in here. And tell you, when I first came through, and I was selected to go in Pro Football Hall of Fame. I come in, I see Deacon Jones, and I see Jim Brown, and I see Marion Motley, the greats of the greatest, and I'm like, now I'm going to be grouped with these guys, and I'm like, I was kind of like just in awe of that, and just the guys, because those guys made the sacrifice to make the game how great it is, and it was just a really emotional moment for me. And then I was sitting down and having lunch with them and hearing their stories and stuff, and how Deacon Jones, he'd take the football and would nobody be able to play because Deacon, no, I'm just joking. He'd take the football and say, "Hey, you ain't playing no more football today," but no, he's a great guy, and we miss him. We just lost Deacon Jones. He's a great guy and stuff, so.
You mentioned Joe Klecko, and this is a good illustration of how hard it is to get in the Hall of Fame. Joe Klecko made All-Pro at 3 different positions on the defensive line and is not in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Roger Craig really is the architect of the West Coast offense.
Right.
He was the back. He was a fullback in college, made a halfback with the 49ers, never caught a pass in college.
Right.
And when they went to the 49ers, he became the outlet receiver out of the backfield that made that that West Coast offense work with the short dink and dunk passes from Joe Montana.
He sure did. You explained it well and stuff. He was a guy that he caught the football well, he ran the football well, he blocked well. He was a physical guy, just a great all-around football player. And I hope he gets into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Just a terrific football player. Like I said, back in that year, I thought he was the best football player. If I had to vote, I would have voted him as the best football player in the National Football League that year.
Well, that's a heavy endorsement.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about players that you went up against and say were great. That era had a lot of different great teams. We mentioned the 49ers. If you were to kind of look at the 80s, and then without selecting the Dolphins, if you're looking at the 80s, what was the team of the decade? What would you?
In the 80s?
Yeah.
It might be the 49ers. They did a great job. They were they were there in the mix every year and stuff, just about and stuff. Joe Montana and those guys. They were good football teams. They had year in and year out. I think they did a good job and stuff. So. Yeah.
I don't think Don Shula agrees with you, but that's all right. Don wouldn't let us eliminate the Dolphins from the consideration.
Yeah,
so.
well, we'll let Coach Shula. Who did he choose anyway? I let him have his way. Who did he choose?
I'm sure he chose the Dolphins. There's some reason why everybody else didn't, I suppose. Yeah. If I can go back to Don Shula for a minute, Don was a player here up north here in Cleveland. He played for Paul Brown.
Right.
And is a great disciple of Paul Brown's and learning from Paul Brown. When you think of Don Shula, and I hate to put it this way, but was he old school to you, or was he, because he won with a passing game and he won with a running game?
And I think Coach Shula tried to adapt to the times and the changes. He had certain basic culture and certain things that he wasn't going to change. He was going to compromise the way he practiced and stuff. He was going to be, the rules. He's going to play by the rules, so forth and so on. He wasn't going to cheat that way, but. But as far as he recognized that the passing game was the way to go in the National Football League. And then when you have one of the greatest passes, he had Dan Marino was like, we're running the football, no. I mean, we're gonna pass the football. He recognized that the rules were leaning that way, as well as he had the greatest passer I feel they ever played in the National Football League, and that was Dan Marino available. And so that's the way we did it. And I think at the time, the running game and the way he won the Super Bowls the years before was by, not making the mental errors. He had guys, tough guys like Larry Zonka, great offensive lineman, Larry Little, Jim Langer, and those guys. But he adapted to it. And then when we came along, our era, I think, again, the passing game was the way to go, and that's why we threw the ball like probably 70% of the time, 60% of the time. And we were effective. We won a lot of games that way and stuff.
A lot of them came in the last minutes of the game.
Yeah.
A lot of it was a lot of just, as you say, rushing to the line of scrimmage, not wearing down.
Right.
So conditioning played a big part of your game.
Right, it was and stuff. And, Miami, we were never a big offensive like that, 300 pounds, 400, we weren't. When I played National Football League, I played 257 pounds and stuff. I never got to 260, but now I'm a little heavier than that. But anyway, so but we were smaller, but we were quick. It wasn't like we were, just living on quick. I think we would compact. We were guys that we delivered the lick. We weren't absorbing the lick. So we came off the football and stuff and tried to attack guys and stuff. So that's how we played and stuff. Quickness and stuff was a big part of our success.
And Dan was pretty quick with the release.
Yeah.
That helped.
Yeah.
How was Dan in the sense of I know as team captain and you're calling the huddle, but how was Dan in terms of orchestrating that offense? Was he somebody that commanded their attention? Yeah,
he do. Dan was a good guy. He knew what he wanted to get done out there on the football field. He was a guy. When the game and that sort of thing, we're in the huddle and stuff come in from the sideline, Dan, he listened to it and he called the plays. But when things got down to the end of the game and things needed to be done, Dan kind of, he kind of took over. He literally would make the calls and that sort of thing. And some of those games we took, because some of the things you couldn't be on the sideline and make those calls and see the things that you saw out there. You had to be in the huddle, you had to get the information back from the wide receivers, and he said, okay, don't do it at 14 yards, do it at 17, and I'll get it there. Those kind of things were said in the huddle. But in the end of the game, when money was on the line, Dan Marino would would take over at telling guys what to do and stuff, and the stuff would work. I'd go in the games, and we might be down a touchdown with 2 minutes to go or something. I really wasn't worried because I felt confident we could score and stuff. And it would be quick score. Sometimes we scored too fast, and then before we know it, they had the ball back or whatever and stuff, and then they go down the field. But Dan, that's the kind of guy Dan was. But Dan was a team player just like right now. He's very much a team player. He was involved with the union back then when he didn't have to be involved with the union. He was going to get his payday and his money and stuff like that. But he was our union leader at the Miami Dolphins. He was a perfect guy. And sometimes I knew it was a risk to him in his career because you never know how the head coach, Coach Shula, and him has a conversation once in a while about that. And so, but they got through it and that sort of thing. And but he was just a great guy and stuff, and a great team player. Great team player.
He is, as we all know, Dan Marino and Jim Kelly are good friends.
Yep.
They were great competitors and respected each other tremendously. But just for those of you who are following Jim, Jim Kelly's been battling cancer.
Yeah.
But a very interesting video on BuffaloBills.com today. Jim went and visited the team while he's completed his chemo and his radiation treatment. Very moving little pep talk he gave his team. But that's kind of what it's kind of really all about. At the end of the day, when the field's clear, we're all NFL players. They're brothers.
Right, and we are. And like I said, we compete against one another, but Jim Kelly and Marino, I'm telling you, they're like buddies. Brothers. They love one another, care about one another. And I love Jim. Just great. He's part of the Hall of Fame, but he's a competitor of mine. But, Jim's just a great guy. There's not a better guy in the National Football League ever played in the league than Jim Kelly. And we're praying, and we're with Jim Kelly, and we want to see him, continue to battle and get through what he's going through. Just a really great guy. But you see Marino up there, we did something with the Miami Dolphins. We were over in the Bahamas about 2 weeks ago. Marino got off a flight. He flew directly from Seattle back to Miami to get on a flight. Within a couple of hours, fly over to the Bahamas. But then he was leaving right from the Bahamas, fly back to Miami to go right up to to be with Jim Kelly the next day. But he did have called Jim Kelly. I mean, Jim's just a great guy, and they're best friends. They're really great friends and stuff. So
We see a lot of that here, and people, I guess, behind the scenes, if you will, and it shouldn't be referred to as behind the scenes, but we look at our Hall of Famers, we look at athletes, players in the NFL, we see them as guys that play a game. But the stories behind the stories are the ones that are really sometimes more interesting even. But I want to share one more personal story. I hope you don't mind, Dwight.
no, that's fine.
Dwight's daughter
Yeah.
recently, well, I'll let you tell the
Yeah.
story. It's
Yeah, my daughter, she's 33 years of age, single parent, single person. She went to school at Bethune-Cookman College. She graduated there. She's been she has her own company, and she lives in Atlanta, Georgia. A friend of hers got involved with some things like drugs and stuff like that, and she was losing her kids, going to lose her kids. So my daughter, she stepped in, and she has a big heart, and she adopted her 5 kids to keep them together. 5 kids, and they're like ages 3 to 9. So it changed her life, but she's a big heart, and we're helping out. So we're supposed to be getting the kids. We've had them down there last summer for like about 2 weeks. Believe me, between the age of 3 and 9, that's a lot of work. I didn't know how to handle it. It took me a little while, and then I found a little switch about that. And that it don't have to take a belt or anything, just a little switch. And you can't hit, your hand. I'm heavy-handed. I said, so anyways, yeah, a little switch. But they're great kids, and my daughter, she's just a great person and stuff like that. And mother was a great person too and stuff. So. Good people.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we have the NFL rookies
Yeah.
now come through the Hall of Fame as a part of their orientation, give them a sense of the history of the game and whose shoulders they're standing on.
Right.
If this was the rookie group here right now, what one word or what one message would you give them about beginning their careers in the National Football
I think
League?
one thing, it takes you a lot to get in the National Football League, and it takes you a lot to stay here. And some of the things that you don't get when you come in the National Football League, and that is the history of the game. You don't know what necessarily those guys that come before you had done, and then before you know it, you'll be out of the National Football League. But I would stress to those guys to try to learn the game, the guys that have come before them. I mean, and know the history of the National Football League. I mean, that help them while they're there, as well as and when they're done with football. But that's one thing I would try to stress to them. I mean, and before you know it, I mean, literally 9 years go by like that. Before I knew it, I was out of the National Football League. It's like, okay. And then once I became more active and stuff, like trying to figure out what to do, that's when I found out more about how the National Football League developed and the guys that came before me and what they did and so forth and so on. That's one thing I would try to stress to them. Learn the history of the game. I think it's important.
That's great. That's what we hope to do when they're visiting us. So.
Yeah, and that's no better place to do it than right here at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I think that this right here, I think it's, as far as Hall of Fame, I think it's the greatest Hall of Fame in the world, and definitely here in the United States. And they've just renovated. I think it's absolutely a fabulous place, and we enjoy coming here and stuff. And so.
We enjoyed having you here today. So,
Thank you.
ladies and gentlemen, let's have a nice round of applause.
Thank you.